story is called The Glass Mountain, and it's a very, very ancient tale. It goes all the way back to the 11th century BCE, and there are many, many versions on different continents. In Scandinavian countries, it's not a glass mountain, it's actually an ice mountain. And there's versions in India where it's slippery rocks, and also in Egypt. But this particular version that I'm going to start with is from Poland, and it goes like this. A long time ago, but not so very long ago, there lived a young woman who married a magical black bull who was really a prince in disguise. And soon after their wedding, he had an old conflict to settle with a foe. And so he took her deep into the forest, and he found some craggy rocks, and he asked her to sit on the rocks, and he gave her some very specific and serious instructions. He said, whatever happens, don't move from this place until I come back, and be as quiet as you can be. And so she agreed, and off he went. But she tried to sit with her elbows close to her side, and she tried to be quiet as a mouse. But she became very, very restless, and it seemed like the very stars were pulling her hair, and she couldn't sit still for a moment longer. And so up she left, off the rocky place that she was sitting, determined to go out and make her own way in the world and find her beloved husband. So she searched high and low and near and far, through the forest, over the hedgerows, into the streams and the creeks and the lakes and the valleys. Day after day she searched, but bereft, she could not find her magical bull husband. She went on and on like this until one day, right in the middle of her path, was an enormous glass mountain. And she knew that her beloved was on the other side. Oh, but this glass mountain, it was too wide to go around. It was too high and too steep and too slippery to climb. But she knew that he was on the other side. And so with determination, she set out to scale the glass mountain. She would go up and up, inch by inch, as slowly as can be, and all of a sudden she would get to a handhold, and she would slip all the way down, all the way back, right to the start. And she did this time after time and day after day until she would get higher and higher and slip down farther and farther, until one day she found herself just sitting at the bottom, exhausted and hopeless, in a puddle of her own tears. She was in this place when who should come by but a humble blacksmith. And he saw her sitting there in her puddle of tears and heard her story. And he said, "Please, young daughter, come home with me. Come home and I will teach you how to make your own pair of iron shoes that would help you climb this mountain. But you must commit to 7 long years of servitude." Well, the young woman had no other choice, nowhere to go, and she knew she had to find her husband. So she went off with the blacksmith. She put in her time. She learned her craft, and after 7 long years, she was able to fashion her own pair of handmade iron shoes. And when she returned to the base of the glass mountain, she put on those iron shoes and she climbed right up that slippery surface, reuniting with her magical bull of a husband, who now, upon their meeting, became the handsome prince that he was underneath. He had been released from his spell. In another version, there is a golden tree at the top of this glass mountain that has golden apples. And it is said that anyone who can retrieve one of the apples will open the doors to his heart's desire. And many men have tried to crawl up this glass mountain and get to those golden apples, but alas, they slide all the way down, all the way to the bottom, so much so that the entire base of the mountain is littered with the bones of men who have failed. Well, one day a young schoolboy was in the woods, and he was attacked by a lynx. And just as the lynx was about to sink his claws into his flesh, he turned with his knife and stabbed him right through the heart. He cut off his paws, and he affixed the paws to his hands and to his feet, and off he went up the glass mountain. Inch by inch, he clawed, looking only up, trying not to look down as he went up and up and up, using those lynx claws for traction. And when he got about halfway up the mountain, he paused and he looked down and he saw all the bones of the people who didn't make it, and he had some doubts about himself. And right at that moment, a big eagle, enormous eagle, whoosh, 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 came flying overhead and saw him and thought, what a good meal he would make. And in the eagle came, and just as he was about to pierce the boy's flesh with his talons, the boy, seeing the eagle, let go of the glass mountain and began to fall backwards and grabbed hold of the eagle's legs. And the eagle, now confused, just kept flying up and up and up, carrying the schoolboy who was hanging on for dear life. But as he looked down below, he could see everything. The hedgerows, the rivers, the lakes, the forests, the fields, everything looked so beautiful from up high. And up and up and up he went until he was right above what else but the magical tree with the golden apples. He let go of those eagle's legs. He fell gently into the boughs of that tree which held him, and he retrieved the golden apple, which was said to open the doors to his heart's desire. Now, most of us know what it feels like to try to hold our elbows close to our side, to try to be quiet as a mouse, to feel overly domesticated. And most of us know what it feels like to feel like the stars are pulling our hair and we are restless to set out on our own journey and be the author of it. And all of us know what it feels like to run into the obstacle of a glass mountain. Oh, for some, those obstacles are external, like money or housing, or even navigating your partner's family's relationships. But for some of us, those glass mountains are internal. They're about our loneliness or our anxiety, our self-doubt, or that little voice we have inside of our head that says, not enough, or you'll never make it. The glass mountain is beautiful, but it is too wide to go around and too steep and slippery to climb. And yet, we know that everything we need is on the other side of that mountain. Every treasure, everything we yearn for and have to have. And we also know that things we have lost are on the other side of that mountain. Lost loves, lost treasures, lost senses of self, taken away by monsters we didn't even see coming. Writing can be like scaling a glass mountain or tending to our creative fires. And we do find golden apples along the way, but the real treasure is in the process itself. Because here's the thing, there will be other glass mountains. And once you learn how to navigate and get better at it, you know what to do. And you get yourself some lynx claws or make yourself your own pair of handmade iron shoes, or hitch a ride on an eagle, and you make it. And when you make it, and you realize that you know how to do that over and over again, you feel life and power as never before. Today we honor the journeys and the obstacles that these students and these faculty and these writers have overcome. So join me in welcoming them.
Perfect.